Hey guys, welcome back. Austin Kent here. I wanted to go through another live stream just to go through sort of the last few days. Hope everybody had a good holiday. We had a good holiday here in Canada. I hope it was awesome for everybody. It was a weird year, different than normal, but at least there's some silver linings of the weird year, I guess. So we just had fun hanging out at the house with immediate family. Just change of pace from traveling everywhere. Around this time of year, feels like you're always in the car. So that was kind of nice to just hang out with the family. But did get to catch a few games. Especially on Christmas Day. Those are always fun. So it's been kind of a crazy Christmas as far as the NBA schedule goes, just because usually Christmas is sort of a nice little uh, kind of milestone halfway through the campaign. But this year it's just been it's been go go go. Like game one hadn't even closed by the time we were playing the Christmas Day games, um, so it's been a little hectic here, but as of tonight, we officially closed game one. So you now have a win or loss, depending on how you did in your first game, because the Rockets, and the Thunder, who had their game postponed on the 23rd, that hasn't been rescheduled yet, but they were scheduled obviously to play today, Boxing Day, and that game is now over. Since that became Houston's game one, we can now say that 30 teams have played in game one. So we have some records now, and we've got more stats in the 2020-21 like season log. So there's just a couple things that are available to us now. If you're a new user starting out and are curious, just about a couple other features in terms of how you can optimize your lineup and whatnot. There's just more to work with now. We don't constantly have to go back and refer to the 2019-20 stats. We've got them right here for us. So I want to hop right into things. I've been kind of dialed in, but not really dialed in. So a lot of this stuff in terms of the box scores that we're going to be looking at, I haven't seen them yet. So we'll be digesting them in real time, which I think is kind of fun. Because there were some random really good stat lines, but I'd like to sort of unpack those further. So let's get right into it. You'll see now that I've got a loss in this particular league. Didn't start out so great. But this is all the first official win is now in the database for your team. So it's you can at least start seeing how the standings might play out. It's been so long since we've had actual fantasy games close. If you didn't play in a Disney league, then it's been like 9 months. So it's nice to get that back. Hopefully I can get the W next time, but I'll take any game we can get. So now that I am logging in here, I've just logged into the front page that you'll see. You can see a couple indicators. Like if you don't want to waste time sort of flipping through your league and you want to hop straight into a game, you can do that right here. It says I don't want to look at this game because I lost, so I'm going to go find a league where I won. And this is a league that I'm particularly excited about. It's a 30-team salary dynasty with an extra twist for free agency. If a player leaves their actual NBA team in free agency, then they go up to an auction in your fantasy league. So it's pretty hardcore, but it's fun. We enjoy it. There's 30 teams in it, so I'm gonna hop right into this box score, mostly because I am just so excited about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He hit buzzer beater today, which is nice. I think I just am so high on Shai this year. Now that it's his team, now that he's not one part of a three-headed point guard monster. Now that Chris Paul and Dennis Schroeder are gone, So I was happy to see him, do real well this year, and that coupled with some of my other guys that did well, I was able to get the W here. You'll notice now that this game has officially been scored. You can now see the matchup data for your entire league here. Um, you hop into any particular game if you want. You can just do that right here. If you want to just hop around and see your next game, like game 2, which is now pretty much almost, that game's almost finished now as well. You could just do that directly by clicking the next button here. It'll take you right to it. But I want to look at this game for now. So you see my team, you see the opponent's team, and there's a couple. I've gone into so many videos, I feel like, about breaking down box scores. I won't go crazy here, but you have a couple of options if you want to toggle a bit more information. And one of the big things we added a couple years ago was the ability to click here on the blue column. All this works on mobile as well, and it really toggles just a bunch of math. Which is if you're a new user, don't even really worry about this until you really grasp the concept of how the scoring algorithm works. But once you get there, if there's something that isn't obvious to you, you can see exactly how the math breaks down. You can see, obviously, that you start the game with 96 guard minutes, 96 forward minutes, and 48 center minutes. But this way you can sort of see in sequence how those minutes are being used. You can see that in this case 36 of my minutes went of Luka Doncic's minutes counted at guard, which left me with 60 guard minutes remaining. 35 more minutes were used up by Shea, and so on and so forth. You can see Fultz got me. This is the prorated amount of fantasy points he got in 25 minutes because that's all I needed to fill, even though he played 29 minutes. So this is the proration. I don't even know if that's a word, but this is the prorated stats in effect. 86% of Markelle Fultz's production counted for my team, and absolutely none of Mike Conley's minutes counted for my team, which I'm happy with because he didn't do so hot. Of course, in the future, I don't have to change my lineup. In the future, if let's say Shea doesn't play, all of a sudden that's going to leave a lot more minutes on the table for Fultz to fill, and he probably won't fill them all, which would sort of bring Mike Conley into the mix. So that's one of the biggest things I think that sets Sports.ws apart from different leagues is the fact that you don't have to sort of babysit your lineup and just sort of move injured players in and out. It's a lot more about drafting a team or building a team with depth and getting your roster right the first time, and then seeing just how it stacks up. It's less about just updating your lineup every day. But of course, you can tweak it if you want to play the matchups. I don't even play the matchups unless it's really the playoffs. I kind of just build my team and I let it fly and see how they do. Then I make trades accordingly. So that's just one toggle here. You can also toggle if you want a bit more data, like if your league, for instance, penalizes field goal attempts, which this one does. You're not going to see that here. And I didn't want to make that the default for these pages because it gets real crazy real quick. However, if you click anywhere in the gray, you can toggle a bunch of math. That's sort of the underlying theme of Sports.ws. It's a lot of math, but you don't need to get lost in the weeds in here if you don't want to. But of course, if you do want to, then you're more than welcome to, and you can see the exact breakdown of Doncic's stat line. Like we know he got 45 fantasy points and he played 36 fantasy minutes. But here's the actual breakdown of his stats in terms of offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds. This takes your custom scoring format into account, obviously. So you can literally add. It's like an itemized receipt where you can add or detract points based on every single thing, from a free throw make to a free throw attempt. and so on and so forth, all down the line. So it's there for you if you want it. You certainly probably won't use it every single game, but it's there if you're kind of just looking to dig a little bit deeper. And of course, if you really want to switch to a more sort of basic display, you can toggle the classic view. And this is the view that has been in place for 20 years. And you know, some people just love it. Every time I've tried to get rid of it, I hear from our loyal users, and a lot of users will still use this layout. It's not for me, but this is the classic, and it's just got everything in a more sort of conventional breakdown. I see some of the table columns are a little wonky here. I'll have to tighten those up. Um, so anyway, I'm gonna set my lead back to modern just because that's how I prefer to digest everything. And what else could we hop over into? You may have noticed I talked about this on Discord a little bit today, that there was something funky going on with the Houston box scores for Game 3, and that is sort of just an unrelated bug tied to the postponed Rockets Thunder game. It has been resolved. Um, as far as I know, everything else has looked kind of smooth on that front, which is nice because it's not going to be the last postponed game that we get this year. So it's good to know that we'll be able to adjust on the fly. I'm really curious about how these Christmas Day games went. I'm able to look, pretty quickly and easily for my team. Um, this is one of the teams I'm most excited about. A lot of young players and stuff. Of course, you can hop in any box score you want. Um, I knew that Boucher had a nice game, so I was happy to log in and see this. Now that Boucher is finally getting his opportunity, as soon as they signed him to that deal, and off the top of my head, I can't remember what it was, like 3 years, 20 million or so. As soon as I knew for a fact that the Raptors were fully committing to him, I just knew he'd be a stud in these leagues. So happy to see that come into effect so early. I like that. And then, of course, DeRozan is still a Raptor in my heart. What else do we have going on here? I know one player that I noticed climbing up the popular additions table was Darius Garland, and this is a player who I was kind of excited about last year, but I kind of lost steam during his rookie year. But his first 2 games now, the regular season, have looked nice. I don't even know what to make of the Cleveland backcourt. It seemed for a minute there last season that Kevin Porter Jr. might be the most attractive guard on that team. But I mean, I'm just happy to see Garland turning it up in his second year after a kind of a quiet first year. Look at this. There's no way this can hold on. But if Garland can get anywhere close, to these stat lines on a regular basis, as a 20-year-old, then that's a major, major win. I think we kind of gloss over how intriguing Garland was before he got injured in college, but his ceiling is very interesting, and I kind of had written him off a little bit, as much as you can write off any 19-year-old. But now he's right back into it with a couple early performances. Of course, Porter Jr. hasn't played these games, so that might change things. But anyway, it's a good problem for Cleveland to have. Now they just need to figure out their front court, and they could be a league pass team to watch. So, what else do we have going on here? I noticed Jarrett Culver had a couple good stat lines. This is another example of a young guy that didn't look super awesome in his first year, but has gotten off to a solid start here. His game log last year started off kind of rough, but then the Timberwolves moved him to the point, and the stats started to kind of really pick up from there. But then the team traded for D'Angelo Russell, and it kind of seemed that maybe they wouldn't be playing Culver at point. But the guy is versatile, I'll tell you that. So if he can end up being sort of the higher ceiling version of what he could be, then that's an awesome chip that the Timberwolves can add. That's one thing that I did want to check. I wanted to hop into more detail about the Timberwolves because I heard somebody raving about Anthony Edwards, and here you go. Like I said, I'm kind of viewing this all for the first time today, right now. But Anthony Edwards, you know, I didn't think he'd get a very um, efficient stat line this year in terms of fantasy points per minute because I thought he'd be playing a lot more than 23.8 minutes per game. But if the guy can score 16.5 points in less than half of a basketball game, that's a pretty good spot to be in for a 19-year-old. So I definitely this year in drafts I took kind of James Wiseman or LaMelo Ball, depending on position scarcity in a league. Those were my first two, and then once you got to the third pick, I mean, for me personally, I was taking Killian Hayes and Obi Toppin as often as I was taking Anthony Edwards, and um, I don't know if that. Obviously, it's way too early to tell anything, but I guess Killian Hayes has started slow as a point guard in the NBA. That's nothing to worry about. But Anthony Edwards has just looked a lot better than I thought he would look. So that's what's got me sort of scratching my head and wondering about that. But and then Obi Toppin, he got hurt. He got hurt today. I saw that tweet come in from Mark Stein. You hate to see that. He'll be out for 7 to 10 days. Obi will. So he didn't even suit up in this game. But okay, yeah, out with a strained calf. He looked all right in preseason. I'm excited about that. Let's see who these MVPs are now. Embiid and Simmons. I hope this is the year that they become more than just a disappointing, intriguing team. What else do we got going on here? Other players in the popular ads. Keldon Johnson. Keldon Johnson is the type of player that will be sort of breaking onto the scene in traditional fantasy basketball, but I guarantee you that Sports.ws users, especially in deep leagues, they know all about Keldon Johnson. So the fact that he's looked so good early on is no surprise. Their Spurs just are loaded with those intriguing young players, and you don't know which one's going to end up being their best player. But if you just had to take your pick between Keldon Johnson or Lonnie Walker, DeJounte Murray, of course, probably the farthest along. But now even Devin Vassell, the Spurs just know how to develop their players. It feels like they can't miss. And Keldon Johnson is one of those. He came alive towards the end of last season, perhaps in the bubble. I can't remember for sure because time means nothing anymore. But happy to see that, and happy to see him start to get scooped up on all these rosters. Josh Jackson, I think I said on the stream previously, is my dark horse candidate to lead the Pistons in scoring. Not that that's like a crazy achievement, but didn't look so hot in game 2 today. But I just think we saw it in Memphis, and we definitely saw it in Phoenix, that if given the keys to the car, Josh Jackson can definitely fill the stat sheet, and not just points, but across the board, blocks, steals, rebounds, assists. He's a player that I'm sort of low-key excited about as a post-hype sleeper. Of course, the big thing to look out for with Josh Jackson is just his fit, on and off the court. But I have high hopes for him in Detroit. I definitely invested in him in a few leagues this year. So, what are the players people are moving off of? Glenn Robinson, that's surprising. Taylor HORTON-TUCKER. People are starting to lose faith in THT, and this doesn't surprise me because Taylor Horton-Tucker is on just such a stacked Lakers team. He in a normal season, I would say Taylor Horton-Tucker, he's just not going to play enough to be fantasy relevant. But then I started thinking more and more about how the Lakers are going to be, I assume, resting LeBron and not pushing him too hard given the short off season. But I imagine that Taylor Horton-Tucker will have the occasional beefy stat line. Not this beefy, not the 33, 10, and 4 beefy, but I think if the Lakers do decide to sort of be very careful in the load management of LeBron James, you could see Tucker playing 30-plus minutes here and there and really kind of producing. Those games might be few and far between. But for now, if you're in a 30-team league and you can sort of sit this in your lineup and get a random 1.67 FPPM, I think you're going to take that any day. So as a 20-year-old, I wouldn't. I'd be very excited about having him. But of course, it depends on the depth of your league. You're not going to sort of eat up a roster spot in a 12-team redraft league, but you're going to pay for him and invest in him quite a bit if you're in a 30-team dynasty league or anything like that. So what else do we have going on here? Hollis Jefferson's getting dumped, of course. Cody Zeller's hurt, so that's why he's getting dumped. Troy Brown Jr., he had some nice stat lines toward the end of last year, but I don't know how hot he's looked so far. Gonna love me some Bol too. Yeah, just sort of crickets from Troy Brown Jr., which is sort of disappointing because he really started to look nice in the bubble. I think it was in the bubble. And he's still so young, and he's a nice sort of wing capable of getting the points, rebounds, and assists. I wouldn't give up on him just yet, but Troy Brown Jr. is only owned by 61% of the leagues, and that feels high still. I thought he was sort of definitely flying under the radar, but I wouldn't give up on him just yet. I think you're going to see some nice games from him. Bol, not really doing anything. Oh, that hurts. It always hurts to get the all negative in the stat column. But I don't know what people expected with Bol. He's not going to produce this year. I don't think there's even like a chance that he really produces this year. But he's probably one of the most fun players in the league to have on your roster. So I won't fault anybody for stashing him. And in dynasty leagues, you got to be intrigued. Basically, anybody on Denver's front court ends up being pretty decent from a fantasy points per minute perspective. I just don't think you're going to see the minutes to justify that. Who are the sort of MVPs of the night? Holy moly! Of course, it's James Harden. So that Rockets game, wow, 44 and 17. James Harden is unreal. I don't know where he's going to end up. I don't know what's going on in Houston. But James Harden is so good. This is 75 fantasy points in a league that's like production scoring, but with penalties for missed field goals. And he's just looking, he's always just looked crazy good. 75 points is got to be one of the higher ones of the season so far. It's not the highest. I think Jokic beat that on opening day. But I don't know how safe I'd feel investing my whole team in James Harden this year, just because of the uncertainty about what's going to happen, where he's going to finish, if he's going to sit out games. But it's also not crazy to imagine him going on this crazy revenge tour to try to just prove night in and night out that he's an absolute beast and he's worth whatever the asking price is. Because of course Harden wants to be traded. He wants to be traded to Brooklyn. Philly's on his list apparently, and apparently the list is expanding to include a couple other teams like Denver and Miami. But he's not going to get there by tanking his value. If anything, he's going to get there by just proving that he's worth whatever the Rockets are asking in return. And as far as filling a stat sheet in ways that are just completely insane, he's going to be able to do it. So I don't know. That's a risky investment. I'll let somebody else do it. But James Harden could win you your league for you. It's just a bit of a gamble, I think. So what else do I have going on? One of the nicest things about this page is the 2-week summary, which is useless right now because we don't have 2 weeks worth of data. I got to figure out a better way to make this, start being helpful sooner. But when we reach this 2-week mark, this page will constantly compare a player's most recent 2 weeks to their season prior, and it sort of tracks the players that are trending up and the players that are trending down. So it won't necessarily show you the best players from that 2-week period. That will happen down here at the bottom in the 2-week stat leaders, which is already populating because it can start to do that. But the key difference with this top area is the fact that you'll see, if somebody was really bad and now they're average, like that's a step in the right direction. So they'll be trending up. They could be one of the players heating up. And of course, the opposite is true. If somebody's been phenomenal, but the last 2 weeks they've only been, good, then that will get sort of tracked right here. So that's something for us to look out for in the next little while. The last thing that I wanted to talk about for sure here is the stat projections, because now that every team in the NBA has played game 1, we've got stats in the 2020-21 stat table. We can start making projections based off of. We didn't have that before, so I'm just going to hop into another league. Let's hop into. Okay, I'm not looking so hot in this league. Here's a league where I invested in LaMelo Ball, James Wiseman. This is a startup dynasty 30-team salary league. So I went all in on the rookies. It's not working out great, especially now that Obi Toppin is hurt. LaMelo Ball didn't score any points in this first game, but James Wiseman has looked so nice, and he looked so good on Christmas Day. That's a player that I'm just so excited about. But what I want to do is show this. So game 1 is done. You can view your box score here. It's a depressing one for me, so I'm going to get out of here. Of course, this is the next game that's going to close for you. And it's game 2, and it's basically done. All we're waiting on is Houston because of their sort of screwed up schedule. We're waiting to plug them in. Won't do me any good because John Wall won't be playing this game, but that's what we're waiting on there. So I'm going to show you game 3. Whether the deadline is here or not, it doesn't matter. The thing I want to show you is the projections that you can toggle, and it'll just start doing the math for you. You can sort of see why it's giving you this score, and it's all based on stats from this season. So what that means is it's based on stats, basically from this week because we're still so new. If you're in the middle of a game, like if some of these stat lines are already there, but you've got it for instance, after the December 27th, we'll have the real stats for all these games, but we can still use the projections for the 28th and the 29th. It's a way of kind of seeing if, just how you'll do, and it updates as you progress through the matchup. That obviously wasn't an option for us until a couple days ago because the players hadn't actually played any games yet. So that's one thing that is probably one of the things I use most on the site. Is just constantly projecting to see if I'm going to win. Doesn't look so good for me here in game 3 either. I may need to change my strategy. Perhaps trade some of my young guys. What else do I have going on here? This team, I went young, and then I went the complete opposite course, and I drafted Blake Griffin and John Wall because this is a salary league. So basically, the two of them make up, 80% of my payroll. It's always fun. There's always something different to try. I'm good to start up a new 30-team salary dynasty, basically every year. So if you've got a spot, let me know. Um, Good. Okay, I'm gonna call it here. I appreciate you guys for checking this out. If you have any questions at all, like I guess I haven't even been checking the YouTube thing to see if I've got any. Yeah, if you've got any questions or anything, then let me know. Um, and you can send me questions on Twitter or here or anywhere, and I'll get to them. I don't. There's no real short answerable questions I've got right now, but uh, over the next few days I'll be doing the same type of thing. So if you've got anything you want to know, let me know. For now, if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, that'd be awesome. We have kind of bigger plans in the works. It's not just going to be me streaming for a half hour every day. We want to do some kind of more insightful fantasy content. Um, so hit a subscribe for that. Follow Sports.ws on Twitter. It's just Sports.ws, and you can follow us on Facebook, but Facebook is quiet. But the Discord community is real nice. So hop in there, and there's just no shortage of ways that we can keep this community going. So hop in and say hi. All right, thanks guys.